Emotional intelligence, the ability to understand and manage our own emotions, empathize with others, and navigate relationships effectively, stands as one of the most underestimated drivers of human success. Unlike IQ, which remains relatively fixed throughout our lives, emotional intelligence, EI, can be learned and developed at any stage. Daniel Goleman's groundbreaking research revealed that while most people believe emotions happen to them, the reality is far more empowering. We can cultivate the skills to work with our emotions rather than be controlled by them. Yet despite decades of research demonstrating its importance, the vast majority of people continue to mismanage their emotional lives in ways that sabotage their relationships, careers, and well-being. Understanding emotional intelligence requires breaking it down into its fundamental components, each equally essential to mastering our inner world and our connections with others. Self-awareness forms the bedrock of emotional intelligence. This is the capacity to recognize what we're feeling in any given moment and understand why those feelings arise. Self-aware individuals can trace their emotions back to their triggers, recognize patterns in their emotional responses, and understand how their feelings influence their thoughts and behavior. This foundation enables intuitive decision-making, stronger moral judgment, and the ability to anticipate how situations will affect us emotionally before we're overwhelmed by reactive responses. Self-management takes self-awareness a step further by transforming understanding into action. It's the ability to regulate distressing emotions so they don't derail us from our goals, while simultaneously harnessing positive emotions to fuel motivation and passion. Someone with strong self-management doesn't suppress anger or sadness. They acknowledge these feelings and choose how to respond to them. This domain separates those who are slaves to their moods from those who use emotions as information and fuel. Empathy extends emotional intelligence outward. It encompasses three distinct capacities: cognitive empathy, the ability to take another person's perspective; emotional empathy, actually feeling what someone else feels; and empathic concern, the motivation to help. Empathy doesn't mean agreeing with someone or absorbing their emotions. It means genuinely understanding their emotional experience and responding with care. This skill transforms how we listen, how we lead, and how we build trust. Relationship management is where all the previous domains converge. Using our self-awareness, emotional regulation skills, and empathy, we can lead others, influence outcomes, inspire teams, and build relationships that are both productive and fulfilling. Relationship management is the visible manifestation of emotional intelligence. It's where EI meets real-world impact. The theoretical importance of emotional intelligence becomes undeniable when we examine its real-world effects across different domains. Schools that have implemented comprehensive emotional intelligence programs have documented measurable improvements in student behavior, academic performance, and social skills. Students who develop these capacities learn to handle conflicts more constructively, demonstrate greater resilience in the face of challenges, and create more positive peer relationships. In the professional world, leadership research consistently shows that emotional intelligence is essential for effective leadership. The most successful leaders aren't necessarily those with the highest IQs or the most technical expertise. They're those who can read a room, inspire teams, manage conflict, and create psychological safety. High-performing leaders excel across all four EI domains, and this capacity to understand and work with emotions directly correlates with team performance, employee engagement, and organizational outcome. Interestingly, while research suggests that men and women may have different average strengths in certain EI domains, this doesn't limit either gender's potential. Men and women alike can develop excellence across all four domains. Gender differences in EI strengths appear to be more influenced by socialization and opportunity than by any inherent limitation. While cultural context shapes how emotional intelligence is expressed, different cultures have different norms around emotional expression, eye contact, and directness. The fundamental capacities of self-awareness, empathy, and relationship management remain universal across human society. One of Goleman's most transformative insights is the connection between attention and emotional intelligence. Optimal performance, what psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi calls flow, occurs when we're completely focused on a task, Our skills match the challenge at hand. We receive immediate feedback and we experience genuine enjoyment in the process. Flow is not a mystical state. It's a learnable condition that depends fundamentally on attention. Leaders who understand this can actively create conditions for flow in their team by setting clear goals, providing immediate and constructive feedback, and carefully matching task difficulty to individual abilities. Managers can help their people enter flow states more frequently. The result is not just higher performance, it's greater satisfaction and engagement at work. The science of mirror neurons reveals something profound. Our brains are literally wired to attune to others. When we genuinely pay attention to someone, our mirror neurons fire in sync with theirs, creating a kind of neural synchronization that fosters understanding and connection. Leaders who can maintain focused attention on their team members create an emotional resonance that influences the emotional states of those around them, ultimately generating better team performance and psychological safety. Here's what most people get wrong about attention. They treat it as something you either have or you don't, like height or eye color. In reality, attention is a mental muscle that responds to training. Through mindfulness practices, meditation, and intentional attention exercises, we can strengthen our capacity to focus, sustain attention, and redirect our minds when they wander. This has profound implications for emotional regulation. Many emotional hijackings occur because our attention is fragmented and reactive. When we're distracted, especially by digital devices that are specifically engineered to capture our attention, we're more vulnerable to emotional reactivity. We respond without thinking, say things we regret, and make decisions we later question. Conversely, when we've trained our attention through practices like mindful breathing, we create a gap between stimulus and response. In that gap lies our freedom to choose how we respond. Mindful breathing is deceptively simple yet remarkably powerful. By deliberately focusing on the breath and gently returning attention whenever it wanders, we train the attentional circuits of the brain while simultaneously activating the parasympathetic nervous system, which calms our stress response. This is why mindfulness-based approaches appear across so many successful emotional intelligence programs. Perhaps the most important finding from decades of emotional intelligence research concerns childhood development. The brain's remarkable capacity for neuroplasticity, its ability to rewire itself based on experience, means that early training in attention, self-regulation, empathy, and social skills creates neural pathways that persist throughout life. Children who receive early training in these capacities show significantly improved long-term outcomes, better academic performance, stronger emotional health, and more positive social relationships. Programs like social emotional learning, SEL, in schools teach these skills systematically, and techniques like breathing buddies, where children practice mindful breathing together, foster both self-control and social connection. The famous marshmallow test demonstrated something striking. A child's ability to delay gratification predicted long-term success better than IQ or socioeconomic status. But the marshmallow test isn't really about willpower. It's about attention and emotional regulation. Children who succeeded were those who could redirect their attention away from the tempting marshmallow, managing the emotional discomfort of wanting something immediately and choosing a different response. These same capacities determine success in relationships, careers, and personal goals throughout life. So how do we actually develop emotional intelligence? The answer is both simple and demanding, through intentional practice in real-world context. Leaders and educators can create environments that systematically strengthen both emotional intelligence and attention. This means designing tasks that match people's skill levels, neither so easy that attention lapses through boredom, nor so difficult that it's overwhelmed by anxiety. It means providing immediate constructive feedback that helps people understand the impact of their actions. It means actively cultivating positive emotional states rather than assuming people will manage on their own. At an individual level, mindfulness and structured attention training benefit both adults and children. Starting with just 5 minutes of daily mindful breathing can shift your baseline attention capacity and emotional reactivity. More intensive practices like meditation or mindfulness-based stress reduction (MBSR) programs produce even more substantial changes, creating communities, whether families, workplaces, or schools, that actively encourage empathy and healthy social interaction. transforms the emotional landscape. When we model vulnerability, when we acknowledge our own emotions and mistakes, when we genuinely listen to understand rather than to respond, we give others permission to do the same. This builds stronger, more cooperative, more resilient communities. The research is clear. Emotional intelligence and attention are among the most important determinants of personal and professional success. The fact that 90% of people control their emotions poorly isn't a condemnation, it's an opportunity. Unlike IQ, which is largely fixed, emotional intelligence can be developed at any age through deliberate practice. By intentionally cultivating self-awareness, emotional regulation, empathy, and relationship skills in ourselves and others, we can transform not just our own decision-making and relationships, but the entire emotional tenor of our organizations and community. The path forward isn't about perfecting our emotions, it's about developing the awareness and skills to work with them wisely.